Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now guess what? I am back. I have returned. I was gone there for a little bit. Yes, I understand. I was gone. Oh, December, in fact, and a bit of January. I've still been gone. That's true. I am sorry. I had things to do. I was a little distracted. I was a little distracted. Family things and such, Christmas and all of that. New Year's and such. It was very fun. It was very well. Fun is too. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was nice. It's it was a nice break from my normal life. Um, but I'm back, and I've seen the bite marks trailer for season one, riots. Arcane, by the way. I'm talking about Arcane. Riots season one Arcane trailer. It's for a game. It's not actually. I'm pretty sure they are kind of teasing us that there's gonna be a spin-off of Arcane exploring Noxus or something like that. Probably. I mean, LeBlanc by the end of the trailer was talking about how their next move should be bolder. I think she's not only talking about herself, but she's also talking about Riot, that they should be a little bit bolder, that their next move is going to be a little bit bolder. It shouldn't be more measured. It should be bolder. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. If that's what they're doing. But there's a lot of tidbits of information to be found in that trailer alone. But I'm not entirely sure. I don't know the lore of all the characters. In fact, I've been watching a few reactions to the trailer, and I didn't even know who Trundle was. If I'm being honest, I recognize the character. I've seen something similar to him. It's a dude from Link, the green dude with the red hair from Link's game. Yeah, he kind of looked like him in a sense, but blue with the red hair. He looked very cool. The trailer was also really nice. It was very well done. I really liked the Arcane art style. It's really great. But let me not ramble any more than I already have. So let's get on to it. Let's do this. Transition. Okay, well then, I think it's about time we get down to the nitty gritty. Let me just press play and like. Oh wait, sorry. Mistakes were made. Forgive me. Give me but a second, but a moment. I nearly forgot, We all make mistakes and such. We're not perfect. We're all human. And I am especially aware of that fact. So very human. Frustratingly so. Sometimes. Oh, for the gravy of everything, I despise setbacks. I just have to accept them as they come. But I absolutely can't stand them. Oh, Lordy. Lord. No, don't you do this to me again. Oh, and it freaking, oh no. It's fine, guys. It's fine. We're cool. The reaction, don't worry, we're gonna get to it, like, in a few minutes, for sure. I thought everything was taken care of, but clearly I had missed one little bit, gotta get the earphones on, can't be having audios clashing with one another and such. Oh boy. Okay, my ears are gonna have to get used to these ones. Okay. Okay, we're cool. We're right. Now we can get into the swing of things. Here. Sorry. Okay, it's 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're back. We're cool. We're aight. Everything is cool. Everything is aight. The lighting isn't the most flattering, but you know we gotta make it work. So let's get to it. Just try not. Let me restart everything. By the way, wait. Alright.
Watch this video because there I will explain who LeBlanc is and what is she doing in this universe.
I will definitely check that out.
In that video I also go through her relationship with Vladimir, which will prove to be very important in this cinematic too. But I understand that not everyone will have time to do that, and so in this video, to explain everything, I will give you at least the bare minimum of the context. Anyway, as you may know, Riot released a new cinematic that is 100% based on canon lore, which means it is time to explain what the heck is happening here.
Yes, please.
I mean, from the beginning, it was obvious that this cinematic was gonna be special. First of all, it was animated by Fortiche, and in a way, it is an evolution of their animation. You can see there are small differences from their style in Arcane, which could be because Arcane was in the work for 9 years. Their techniques probably improved. So not only did this reveal that Fortiche might now be doing cinematics for Riot, but also this means that the new cinematic continues the story of Arcane. Yes, this happens directly after Mel travels back to Noxus. But what is by far the most important detail to mention is that this is called the 2025 Season 1 cinematic. Meaning there is likely also gonna be a Season 2 and a Season 3 cinematic.
Thank you.
Yes, we are likely getting 3 cinematics per year now. And yes, that also means the story shown here is likely gonna continue there. But now, without further ado, let's have a look at this first cinematic. And get ready for a lot of details, because after all, this was done by Fortiche. So it all begins with a close-up on LeBlanc's eye, as she says that the strong gather in Noxus. Now yes, we should mention that the strong gather in Noxus, sometimes against their will, because Noxus is all about just absorbing the surrounding nations into the Empire, but also the eye thematically shows us vision, a very Noxian theme. Especially around Swain or the Demon Realm. But also it's a theme for LeBlanc, who is just monitoring the entire Noxus all the time. And yes, the fact that she has gold eyes definitely fits what we've seen in Arcane. She then continues by saying that the strong are being called into Noxus to answer the question, who is strong enough? Referencing how now we have different people heading into Noxus. Namely, this is followed by
Don't bullshit me, bullshitter. What's going on right now?
LeBlanc drawing a wolf on the wall. Now, we talked about the wolf symbolism around Noxus in many different videos, especially the one breaking down Ambessa's cinematic. Simply put, around the world, people worship Kindred as the dual spirits of death, where the lamb is the one who delivers peaceful death, and the wolf is the one that delivers violent death. But in certain regions, people may believe different things, and in Noxus specifically, only the wolf is revered, because everyone wants to die a warrior's death. So already, when it comes to the theme of death, in Noxus,
very interesting, actually. Okay. Quite interesting. This ad refuses to skip. I'm not even gonna lie.
So already, when it comes to the theme of death, in Noxus, it is a wolf. But the reason why LeBlanc drew a wolf on the wall here is slightly different. It's because in the following shot it is revealed that the wolf is Mel. You can even see that as the wolf turns, it has the Medarda star on its forehead. With Mel obviously being the daughter of Ambessa, who was the chosen of the wolf. This was all shown in Ambessa's cinematic. And of course, all of this also relates to what we've seen in Arcane. That's the part most people didn't understand, because yes, it is still all very much vague. Essentially, it was teased that Mbessa stole something from the Black Rose. That something was likely some kind of a power which was put into her child, which turned out to be Mel. This special power is what saved Mel from dying when she was still inside Mbessa, which also, in a way, saved Mbessa, and it is the same power that eventually gets unleashed in Arcane. And because this power keeps saving Mel from death, it is depicted as a wolf. Just keep in mind that, again, most of these are theories because nothing was confirmed yet.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, this wolf
like
on
science.
the wall then directly transitions into Mel. Now here, in the background, you can immediately see the same Noxian ships we saw at the very end of Arcane. And in fact, this shore is the exact same scene we could see in Mbessa's cinematic. In fact, it is set up in a way where one story ended here and another one began.
I should have watched the Mbessa video before I watched this one, but it's already too late now.
Again, remember, it's all for Tish. Also, the reason why I remember this background so well is because this is the background I kept staring at, which is how I missed the fact that Mbessa was pregnant. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Anyway, here you can see that Mel's clothes are identical to the ones we saw at the end of Arcane. Except here she is cloaked. Interestingly enough though, her makeup as well as the magical marks are slightly different. The line across her lips is now on her chin, and now she has lines below her eyes, which kinda mimic the look of LeBlanc.
Yeah.
She didn't have that in Arcane, and now I wonder how that's gonna be related to the future stories. After which, we go back to LeBlanc, where we can see her drawing some kind of a dagger on the wall. We'll get a better shot of this one a bit later. But this dagger obviously transitions into Katarina, who is now at the Silken Dance, which is essentially a party that was put together by the Black Rose. For now, just know that Swain sent Katarina here to assassinate a valuable target. And lastly, LeBlanc also draws the Triforix on the wall, or at least a strange version of it. Of course, the Triforix is the sigil that represents the Vision, Might and Guile, which are the three leaders of Noxus. Those would be Swain, Darius, and the Faceless One. But again, you can see that this version of the Triforix is slightly different. It is more angular, and it looks more like the classic Noxian script. And yes, it is the same version that you can find on the new Summoner's Rift. More than that, you'll see that that version of Summoner's Rift is full of references from this cinematic. Just keep that in mind as we go through the scenes here. After which, the Triforix transitions into Darius, who is quite skinny. I mean, look at the 2xKO version.
Yeah.
What happened here? Well, it turns out there is actually a reason for this, in a very Riot-like fashion. On Reddit, Riot confirmed that this is indeed a younger version of Darius. Okay. And he is here to fight Trundle, which might bring up the question, why? Well, you see, Noxus likes to conquer the lands around it, and that also includes Freljord, which is quite close. With Darius, very specifically, being a veteran at leading their armies into the Freljord. He got a story called the Winterspike Road, where he led the Trifarian legions into the Freljord to fight the Winter's Claw. In the Principles of Strength story, he also took over the Delverhold, which was a former Freljordian kingdom that was absorbed into the Empire. He also got a short cinematic where he was just chilling with the wolves in the Freljord, and in the old Legends of Runeterra Noxian cinematic, we could see him marching into yet another kingdom at the edge of the Freljord. Simply said, Darius is a Noxian who knows how to conquer the Freljord. And so here he is, fighting Trundle, a troll king from the Freljord. Now at this point, Trundle was a troll who started beating the leaders of the other troll clans, so that Trundle could ultimately become the true troll king. And since the majority of the trolls were now allied with Lysandra, because of Trundle, it would make sense that this cinematic would happen somewhere in the contested area between Noxus and the Freljord. However, keep in mind that all of this is happening sometime in the past. This is a younger version of Darius after all, which could be why these banners are different the entire time. It is entirely possible that all of this is happening before the invasion of Ionia, which means this was before Darius was a Noxian leader. It could be that at this time he was just a Noxian commander, meaning that this banner is different because it is not the Trifarian Legion, but instead it could be using the old sigil of Borem Darkwill, the previous leader of Noxus before he was dethroned by Swain. If that's not the case, then I have no idea why it's different. Maybe they just wanted to see a cool new banner. Just keep in mind that all of this is just a theory, because the timelines don't get confirmed. We still have no idea whether the invasion happened during Arcane or not. Anyway, in this cinematic, Darius looks pretty much the same, but Trundle does have some small differences. Again, it is a younger Trundle, and you can see that he has a cloak from a boar. His belt buckle also seems to be just a random shield he got. And he does have something that resembles a crown. In fact, there is a big part of his story where crowns are really important to the trolls. No matter who's strong, some trolls will just lead anyone who has something on their head, even if it is just a bunch of sticks and bones tied together. Yes, the trolls are not the smartest. Anyway, here we get a proof that Trundle is already allied with Lysandra, because he does have the True Ice Club, which he originally got from her. Also, yes, Trundle is an Iceborn, which is why he can hold it. More on that in a moment. Now first, we also get a zoom in on Trundle, and we can see that the tip of his nose is indeed slightly red. This is a reference to his appearance in the game, where he is supposed to have a red nose. And so, Darius then charges into battle, and it transitions into Mel. Here we can see a Noxtora. The Noxtoras are gates that Noxian...
Come now. That's not... Don't embarrass me.
Dad, I'm a genius! We don't have to freeze anymore! I can make us penguins fly!
That's gonna be tricky without...
Noxtoras are gates that Noxians built around conquered territory, and they serve as marks that always lead you to the capital city of the Noxian Empire. It's a twist on the classic saying that every road leads to Rome, except here every road leads to Noxus. And interestingly enough, at the beginning of this shot you can actually hear a raven in the background, which could hint at Swain, or at least his demon's presence in this cinematic. Regardless, Mel walks closer to inspect the images, and that is because the images on the Noxtora depict Noxian history. Which makes sense, because Mel is now coming home,
the unknown one might be Mel's
and here,
father.
the first image shows us some ancient soldiers next to a rose. Because, of course, we know that the Black Rose, as well as LeBlanc, were around since the very beginning of the Noxian Empire. We then get a quick flash of LeBlanc's eye again, because as always, she is just monitoring the entire Noxus, and this shape of an eye then transitions into the Silken Dance. A room with the image of the rose in the middle, which would be a great time to explain what is even going on here.
Yes, please.
As you may know, because you definitely watched the previous videos, the Black Rose is trying to get as many powerful weapons and people as possible to fight back the end of the world. And for this specific party, the Black Rose invited some very important people in hopes of recruiting them into the Cabal. In fact, this is what the new Noxian skins in the game show us. Yes, we have that if you want to see details. So those skins show us who got invited, and they show us what the champions would look like if they accepted the invitation. However, you won't be able to find any of these champions in this cinematic, because once again, on Reddit, it was confirmed that we are not supposed to know yet who actually accepted it. But just know that the Black Rose invited Renada, a powerful Cam Baron because they want to have some influence in Zaun. They invited Ezreal because they would be interested in the Glove of Nezuk, which is the powerful magical artifact he is wielding. They invited Samira, who is a Black Rose mercenary veteran. And again, the reason why Katarina is here is because Swain sent her here to take down a valuable target. We don't really know anything about who that is, but it seems to be the organizer. Little did they know, all of this would also be just a bait, and the Black Rose would be waiting. Anyway, if you look into the background, you may find a variety of masks, some of which are also scattered around the Summoner's Rift. For example, this one got scattered everywhere. But what's awesome is that here you can actually see Elise already lurking in the shadows. And so, Katarina dances closer to her target, And we get some freaky teasers here, such as this mask, which technically has the center in the middle, which means that the eyes of this person are lined up with the noses, so they can't see anything. But eventually Katarina gets close enough to strike, and when she does, she gets interrupted by Elise. And again, here you can see her coming out from one of the masks on the wall. And as she strikes down, you can see the frame she splits Katarina's mask. From which point, the battle begins. And we can see that the shot goes back to LeBlanc, looking at the dagger on the wall. And here, the dagger gets surrounded by a web from a spider on the wall. After which, this directly transitions back to Elise, which confirms that the weird dagger was indeed Katarina, and whatever was the other thing was Elise. And so, Elise, having the skin that is available in the game, now comes out. And she spits her webs onto Katarina. Yes, this is technically an ability from the game, but the funny thing here is, we don't know where the web comes from. She is supposed to spit it out, but it looks like it is coming out of the nose. Though the cool detail here is, look at her eyes. Just like a real spider, you can see that she has multiple pupils in what would be considered her eyes. But then we go back to Trundle and Darius. Here, Trundle parries Darius's axe and he corrupts it with the True Ice. Now, the True Ice is a special ice that technically goes back to the Watchers. It is special because touching it kills you, and only the Iceborn can wield it without dying. In other words, and this is a very simplified version, the Iceborn are people who are blood related to the
original three sisters. Look, I'm not entirely educated on League of Legends. I know little bits of lore and such, but I at least know that. The three sisters, I can't remember their names though. Ash, is Ash one of them? And then there's two others.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and ad-free videos on the YouTube Kids app so kids can bounce.
The Iceborn are people who are blood related to the original kingdom of the Three Sisters. Basically, ancient Freljord. And even though these people can survive holding True Ice weapons, even to them, doing
Sorry. Technical malfunction. There's something I need to fix quickly. We're back. I don't know how many times I've said that by now. I'm sorry. Let's keep going.
Such as this mask, which technically has the center in the middle, which means that the eyes of this person are lined up with the noses, so they can't see anything. But eventually Katarina gets close enough to strike, and when she does, she gets interrupted by Elise. And again, here you can see her coming out from one of the masks on the wall. And as she strikes down, you can see the frame she splits Katarina's mask. From which point, the battle begins. And we can see that the shot goes back to LeBlanc, looking at the dagger on the wall. And here, the dagger gets surrounded by a web from a spider on the wall. After which, this directly transitions back to Elise, which confirms that the weird dagger was indeed Katarina, and whatever was the other thing was Elise. And so, Elise, having the skin that is available in the game, now comes out. And she spits her webs onto Katarina. Yes, this is technically an ability from the game, but the funny thing here is, we don't know where the web comes from. She is supposed to spit it out, but it looks like it is coming out of the nose. Though the cool detail here is, look at her eyes. Just like a real spider, you can see that she has multiple pupils in what would be considered her eyes.
I don't know why.
But then we go back to Trundle and Darius. Here, Trundle parries Darius's axe and he corrupts it with the True Ice. Now, the True Ice is a special ice that technically goes back to the Watchers. It is special because touching it kills you, and only the Iceborn can wield it without dying. In other words, and this is a very simplified version, the Iceborn are people who are blood related to the original kingdom of the Three Sisters. Basically, ancient Freljord. And even though these people can survive holding True Ice weapons, even to them, doing so is extremely painful. That is why, when the axe gets only corrupted by the ice, Darius immediately winces in pain, which causes him to drop it, after which he then tackles Trundle, and that makes Trundle to drop his club too off screen. The two then fight, and it doesn't take long before Darius ends up shirtless. Look, that's a very Riot thing to do. But fun fact, technically Trundle does shred his opponent's armor in the game. This fight then ends with Trundle almost ripping Darius's head off, but against the pain, Darius picks up the axe
I said,
and smashes it across
is he
Trundle's
actually
head.
gonna rip
The reason why
his
this
head
is
off?
so cool is that even though it was just a corrupted weapon, and not directly a true ice weapon, this would still kill most other people. You can even see the corruption of the true ice immediately spreading through his veins. But being the might of Noxus, Darius handled the pain, and he shattered the axe. The funny thing here is that after he shattered the axe, he had to get a new one that was forged exactly like the old one, because he does have the axe now again. But also, you can find the shattered axe as an Easter egg on the new Summoner's Rift. So then, going back to Mel, you can see some other pictures from the Noxian history. And I'll be honest, I hate this awkward angle because I can't really see anything. All while knowing it is supposed to show us something. For example, this first image is a mirrored version of a card we can find in Legends of Runeterra. I know! Lore mentioned. It shows us the tracker with the typical Drakehounds. Next to it we can see what might be the Chalikar, which is the ancient Shuriman blade of Setaka. Long story short, that blade was used to resurrect Azir, as well as turn Cassiopeia from a Noxian noble woman into whatever that is. This is why it could be here. The Chalikar is technically related to Noxian history, but I'm still not sure what that is. The angle is weird, and so it could be anything. In fact, it seems like if you go along this row, it is all just important people. So if the first one is Cassiopeia, and yes, it would match her human form from the old cinematic, then next to it there is some kind of a masked person, and then there is a bold person, and so on. Maybe these are the heads of the royal houses or something like that. Now on the other side of the gate there is also more pictures of the history. There are two big soldiers that look exactly like the soldiers we saw in Arcane, but also there is a lot of imagery around mages and trees. This could all be related to the constant battles between Old Noxus and Demacia, which is a nation that is hidden in a magic-absorbing forest. On the right you can see that there is also a lady, that could be absolutely anyone. Next, as Mel approaches the side, the angle is once again horrible, but we can see the head of a Minotaur, with Minotaurs originating from the mountain pass that is just south of Noxus. So yes, those beings are local Noxians. And we can see that this is a Minotaur head and not the Triforix, because later there is a closer shot and you can see the nostrils at the bottom of this. Also here you can see what seems to be a turret that resembles something from the Summoner's Rift. Now in the past, all of that kind of imagery was teasing some kind of ancient battle that happened somewhere between Demacia and Noxus. In fact, that's all the Easter eggs that are around the current Summoner's Rift. But also, all of that was referenced in the old Rise cinematic. Speaking of which, right next to that there is also an image of what seems to be a warrior holding some kind of a gem. And I really wouldn't be surprised if that was a world rune. And this was referencing the Rune Wars. But after this, the shot goes back to Mel, who gets a vision. And right away notice how her clothes are different. Now she is in her battle mode. As to what that means, I still have no idea. I just think that this is a vision from a possible future that might happen. Regardless, in the background we can see the Immortal Bastion. The reason why it is glowing is because it is full of dark magic. It is all the shady things that Mordekaiser hid here. And it was mentioned many times that some mages can see the ominous glow coming from the Immortal Bastion. But then we go back to Katarina fighting Elise. Elise starts using her spiders in combat, which she does in the game, and Katarina starts throwing her daggers, which she does in the game. All the while, we still have no idea who the main target is. This guy could be just a random noble that got recruited by the Black Rose. And as he moves, we can see that as Katarina is fighting Elise, she keeps an eye on her main target. To show us even more abilities from the game, Katarina pins down her blade, she jumps over Elise and she shampoos back to it. If you're asking how Katarina can do this, that's because her blades are bound to her body with blood magic. All of that appeared in Katarina's comic. Immediately after that, Elise spits out her web, which once again is the stun from the game, and during this battle Katarina eventually slices the throat of her target, and as she does, gold spills out. Now, for this animation, it is most likely just a fancy visual effect. It is supposed to show us that she fulfilled her bounty. But technically, what's funny about this is that in the game, when you get a kill, gold spills out. Which is where we go back to Mel and something really cool happens. Finally, it is confirmed that the Grey Legion is canon. And that makes me extremely happy. Essentially, the Noxians are using blood mages to resurrect their dead soldiers and turn them into undead, frenzied blood monsters. These resurrected soldiers are called the Grey Legion, with Scion being one.
Interesting. That's what he is? He's an undead soldier? I never knew. I've seen pictures of man. I never knew he was undead. Probably should have known from the color of the shade of his skin. But we live in a magic world. How was I supposed to? I didn't want to assume. Oh, whatever. They're gonna call me racist. Fuck. They're gonna call me racist now. Well.
Simplify your 2025 at Checkers. Save up to 40% on back-to-school essentials. And
these ads are not playing with me today. Whenever I have to record,
one of them. Of course, this legion technically belongs to Vladimir and the Crimson Cult. So this is really an army that belongs to the Black Rose, not necessarily the leadership of Noxus. So in other words, here Mel is fighting the army of the Black Rose to get into the capital city. Then we can see the blood mages rising to subjugate her. We get a reference to Mel being tied with dark chains, just like what happened in Arcane. And once again, she uses her gold powers to annihilate her subjugators. After which, totally randomly, pieces of buildings fly at Mel, and to save herself, she's using her golden bubbles. What I believe this is really about is that, yes, it's showing us it is extremely likely that Mel will become a champion in League of Legends, and she will use some kind of supporting bubbles. One thing to mention here is that, yes, there is a titanic head that falls onto her. And I wonder if that is a reference to the titans that come from the old ages of fighting the Vastai Shirei. This is some very niche lore that comes from Ionia. But there, once upon a time, Master Yi got a vision where he saw the titans fighting the Vastai Shirei, but he also got a vision of the Immortal Bastion being built, and that's the only connection I found. So who knows. Now back to Katarina's fight after taking down her target. Elise then transforms into her big spider form, and Katarina smiles, likely being happy because her mission might have been to draw out the Black Rose. And that is exactly what she did here, so at the very least, she does have some valuable information for Swain. But unfortunately, this is where Katarina's part in the cinematic ends. So this part was all about the Black Rose throwing a party to recruit new members into the cult, and Katarina crashing the party to kill the members of the Black Rose. Next, Darius's part also concludes. Here we can see his arm, because the trolls were all about cheating and trickery. So it's weird to see them being honorable for once. Anyway, here you can see that they are dragging Trundle away, so no, he is not dead. And it is also hinted that the trolls leave this area after this. So this is how the Noxians conquered yet another part of the Freljord. And finally, Mel's part ends with throwing the head at the gates of Noxus. This indicates her breaking in. After this, she gets out of the vision and she is back at the Noxtora leading to the Immortal Bastion. Then Mel steps forward, and we have no idea if the vision really showed something that is going to happen. And finally, there is also the epilogue. We get the short conversation between LeBlanc and Vladimir. So, first of all, it really does seem like LeBlanc might get the mysterious VGU in the game. But more importantly, look at the design. You know how in Arcane, LeBlanc had the shadow form because she can cast her clones around the world? Well, those shadows always had human fingers. But here, the human form of LeBlanc has shadowy fingers. I love how those two forms just complete each other. But that is when Vladimir appears on screen. Now again, go ahead and watch that video, there is a lot of hidden lore here. But just know that these two are on the same power level. And in fact, these two together are the two founders of the Black Rose. And if you're wondering why Vladimir looks different all the time, it's because he's changing forms as he gets younger and older with all the blood infusions. Him looking uncanny is perfectly within canon. Also, yes, some people picked up on the fact that Vladimir looks a bit similar to Viego. And that is because Vladimir is actually his very distant uncle. Anyway, here Vladimir mentions that they should focus on the opportunity that washed up on their shores. After which the scene goes to the wolf. Of course, he is talking about Mel, who arrived on the shores of Noxus.
I did not know that.
And he mentions how the Black Rose should probably deal with her. But instead, LeBlanc keeps focusing on something else. And Vladimir says whatever she is focusing on is a step too far, even for them. Now this is important because the Black Rose are insanely powerful. So if Vladimir is afraid too, he is definitely talking about something dangerous. Now the first thought everyone might have is that he could be talking about Mordekaiser, the one thing the Black Rose is trying to stop. But really, there is likely something else happening here. You see, LeBlanc then mentioned that Piltover was just a lesson. Yes, this means that this is happening directly after Arcane, and she says that a calamity is always approaching. This is a reference to the scene where LeBlanc gave a vision to Mel in Arcane. There, when they saw Victor, she also called him a calamity. And finally, it all ends with the next imminent calamity as it zooms in on that. And I'll be honest, that does look like a Darkin. People immediately picked up on the fact that it does look like a dagger with an eye, so naturally people set in Naafiri. Again, as a reminder, the Black Rose are trying to pick up as many powerful artifacts and people to stop Mordekaiser, the literal king of the dead. So them trying to get Darkin weapons makes sense. But this doesn't really look like Naafiri's dagger. Instead, some people noticed that this does look somewhat like Riven's blade. Theory that came up. It is possible that the Black Rose do have a Darkin and they are trying to put it into Riven's blade. That would explain why LeBlanc was always interested in Riven and she was hunting her down across the world. But the thing that really solidifies that we are talking about a Darkin is that it is Vladimir who points out how dangerous this is. With Vladimir getting his blood magic directly from the Darkin during the Great Darkin Wars. He knows what he's talking about here. And LeBlanc would be wise to listen. And that is kinda it for the cinematic. Again, you can get a lot more details from the other two videos we made, but I can't talk about Mordekaiser for the 5th time. So what is going to happen next? Well, Darkin, I guess. The thing is, Arcane was always really good at pushing stories forward. Some would say sometimes the story jumps were a bit too great. But now, how is Riot going to continue this story? Well, there is gonna be a comic, that one was already confirmed. But I don't want to wait 4 months for another cinematic after this one. Though I will agree, it is really cool to see Fortiche back. Their mastery over details is astonishing. Just next time, please pick better angles.
Yeah. Well, that is it for today's video, actually. I learned quite a bit from that. Not as much as I was expecting, but quite a bit. Yeah. I actually didn't know that Vladimir and Viego were related, that he was a distant uncle of his. Very interesting. Also, that LeBlanc feature, that her shadows have human fingers and her actual self has shadow fingers. That's actually really cool. They make a whole. That's really nice. Wow, I hadn't picked up on that before. I think I had realized that somewhere in Arcane, but then I just that her shadows have human fingers. Not that they belong. Not that it was LeBlanc. I just figured that her shadows had. I saw that they had human fingers, but then I just let it go probably. Um, but yeah, that's quite a bit of lore. But yeah, great googling. I'm sorry for the yawn. I'm a little bit tired. It is very late actually. It is very very late. Very, very, very late. It's so late. It's so late. It's the middle of the night. It's not even the night time. No, it's kind of morning. What time is it? I don't even know the time, but I just know it's very late. It's certainly past 12. Oh no, actually it's 12:45. 15 minutes till 1. Quarter till 1. A quarter till 1. Okay, close out. There we go to you. Oh boy. You know, this phone, like, let me not talk about that. But, yes, the video was very great. Subscribe, all of that, if you want to. Comment. Share this video with a friend, you know. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing more of these. Yes, now I'm actually, you know, new year, new me, or whatever. Funny little thing. But yeah. That was, I'm sorry, my nose. But yeah, that was a great video. It was pretty entertaining. I learned quite a few things from it. Really cool. Really cool. Yeah. Well, I'll see you guys next video. When that will be, you'll have to find out. Because I'll have to find out too. Because I gotta edit this video.